Indu Mataji.
Are we ready, Mataji, or do we wait some more? We have 9 participants. Kirtida Mataji, what do you say?
Whatever you say, Mataji. Should we wait? What's the time?
7:21, Mataji. Oh.
We can wait, right? 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, till 25 we can wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavad Pranams, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, I think
Very
Mataji
nice.
will start.
Sure, Mataji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Welcome all to the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Yes, thank you all for consistently joining. It is so exciting to see that people are already on the call even before it's time. So your enthusiasm is really contagious, and this is the first part of the last chapter. Chapter 18 will be done in 2 weeks. So Kirtida Sundari Mataji will be taking this chapter, and I would like to hand it over to her. This is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the perfection of renunciation. That is the chapter title. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji, please take over. Dandavat Pranam Mataji.
Dandavad Pranams. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much, Indulekha Mataji. And thank you each and every one of you. You know, as Mataji already said, that your enthusiasm is really contagious. For a person like me, you know, I'm really getting a lot of inspirations from all of you, that how dedicatedly you have joined entire sessions of this Bhagavad Gita series. So this Bhagavad Gita series is 18 chapters in 18 weeks, but unfortunately we will do it 18 chapters in 19 weeks, because this last chapter is the longest chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and it will be very, very hard to condense the entire chapter in an hour-and-a-half session. Like normally the class is for 1 hour, but even if we go for 1.5 hours, I won't think that we will be able to do justice for this chapter. So we divided this chapter into two parts so that, proper justice can be done, because this chapter is the conclusion of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, just to do justice, we divided it into two parts. So today is the first part. Let's begin. Let's offer prayers and seek invocation, auspiciousness, so that we can deliver the right message of this Bhagavad Gita. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tatbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Okay, so now before we begin with our 18th chapter, we will do a quick overview of chapter number 17. So as usual, our very first question to all our participants, what was actually the acronym for chapter 17? Yes, it's face. Thank you all. Thank you. It was really quick. Yes, it was face, where F stands for faith. And for faith, we delved into that we should have faith in scriptures. That is the divine faith. But there is, a middle faith, that is just we have faith in something, like we have faith in Pilate, we have faith in our work, we have faith in our doctors, so and so forth. But there are still who are faithless, and they are demoniac. And in faith in something was described as there, that it's in three modes. It's in mode of goodness, it's in mode of passion, and it's in mode of ignorance. So those who are in mode of goodness and have some faith, they worship demigods. Those who are in mode of passion, they worship men or other demons. And those who are in mode of ignorance, they worship ghosts and spirits. Then we have A, where we saw that there is an austerities, where austerities were defined, and austerity and food. So again, those three bifurcations were there, that it was austerity in the mode of goodness for the well-being of everyone, austerity in the mode of passion, that is pride and respect. When we do some austerity, we try to incur some pride, some respect. I have done this, I'm so austere, so people should recognize me. And in ignorance, we destroy others. And in food is also in the mode of goodness, which is very, very nourishing, very healthy vegetarian food. And there is a food in passion, which is very spicy and burning, and food of ignorance is putrid. So that was A. And C was charity. So we saw that how charity also falls in three modes. That is mode of goodness, where we have a proper place and person whom we do the charity. Then passion, again, with name and fame, that I have done this. So, if I've donated it to the temple, my nameplate should be there. That kind of passion, that is charity in the mode of passion, and then charity in the mode of ignorance is without respect. And E, we saw that who is the enjoyer of everything? The Supreme Lord is the enjoyer of everything. And then we saw Om Tat Sat. What is Om, what is Tat, and what is Sat? And finally, we came to the conclusion that actually faith is the key for one's spiritual progress. One should have that faith. It starts with Adu Shraddha, that faith should be there. So this was the entire chapter of chapter number 17. But now we have chapter number 18, that is the final chapter and is the longest chapter. And the conclusion, it actually entitles the conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. So we saw that in the previous chapters, there is a description of various systems of yoga had been presented. And in all those systems, when Krishna was talking about, he was establishing the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga. He established that how Bhakti Yoga was emphasized. But in the final chapter of this Bhagavad Gita, which is chapter number 18, is essentially a final summary of this entire 17 chapters of Bhagavad Gita and little more. So sometimes, you must have noticed that when a speaker gives a class, so after that class, what that speaker does in the last few minutes, he or she, summarize the whole class, by stating some key points of this entire class. So here Krishna is also summarizing the entire 17 chapters that he spoke to Bhagavad Gita. So after systematically outlining the various spiritual truth, Krishna offers his supreme advice. And what is the advice that Krishna offers? That one should take up the process of Bhakti Yoga, which is the most essential spiritual practice. And that has been outlined by Krishna in each and every chapter. You must have noticed that at the end of every chapter, actually, Krishna emphasized that, okay, I have talked to you about Karma Yoga, I've talked about Jnana Yoga, I've talked about Dhyana Yoga, but the ultimate process is Bhakti Yoga. And every chapter, Krishna has outlined that. And when one is always in that consciousness of Bhakti, then what happens? He always wears a smile on his face, because he knows amidst in any situation that person is, in any circumstances that person is, but he always wear a smile. A devotee, a bhakta, always wear a smile, because he is very confident that Krishna is my constant companion and is my friend. Yes, and that will lead us to the acronym of this chapter, which is SMILE. Right? So when person achieves that position of being a bhakta, he wears that smile because he's confident that Krishna is going to protect me. Avashya rakshi bhai Krishna eyo vishwas. That's the vishwas. That's the faith that person, that bhakta carries, that Krishna is going to protect me in every situation that may come. So yes, the acronym of this chapter is SMILE, where S stands for summary of Karma Yoga that spans over from verses number 1 to 17. M stands for modes of nature that spans from verses 18 to 40. Then I stands for ideal worker, that is verses 41 to 55. L stands for love of God, that is verses 56 to 66. And E stands for end result, the conclusion, that is verses from 67 to 78. So this chapter in all has 78 verses, and it is the longest chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The second longest chapter was chapter number 2, where also was actually the summary of the entire chapter, because that chapter was also entitled as the contents of the Gita summarized. What Krishna was about to speak was condensed in chapter 2, and later in future chapters, Krishna elaborated those points. But in this chapter, chapter number 18, Krishna is going to give the summary of what all he spoke in those 17 chapters, and later establishing a conclusion. Okay. So the acronym is SMILE. So S stands for Summary of Karma Yoga, right? Summary of Karma Yoga. So in the last chapter, we saw that how Krishna ends by saying that any sacrifice, any austerity, or any charity, when it is done without faith, faith whom? Faith in the Supreme, then that act is actually impermanent, and thus it is useless for this life also and for the next life. Because if we are doing any sacrifice, any charity, any austerity, but we don't have faith in Krishna, then definitely all those activities are simply shrama eva kevalam. It's only the waste of time and energy. So this chapter begins with Arjuna's inquiry on what is actually renunciation, what is tyag, and what is sannyas. So these are the two questions that Arjuna asked, that, oh Krishna, please tell me what is sannyas and what is tyag. Sannyas and tyag means what is renunciation and what is the renounced order of life. And in this, Arjuna, he addresses Krishna as Keshi Nishudana. Keshi Nishudana means one who is the killer of Keshi demon. So why he addresses Krishna as Keshi Nishudana? Because our acharyas explains that these doubts that we carry in our heart are like demons. And these doubts are there in everybody's heart. And there is no harm in having those doubts. But the harm is when we don't want to clarify those doubts, rather keep on holding those doubts on in our own self and just speculate or think, it might be this, it might be that. Then, those doubts are like demons. Right? So Arjuna is also saying that he has that doubt, that what is the difference between sannyas and what is the difference between sannyas and tyag, that is renounced order of life, and the actual renunciation. What is the difference? So he says that I don't want to carry this doubt and don't want this doubt to act like a demon. So, Krishna, Keshi Nishudana, just like you have killed the Keshi demon, so now I am also expecting you to kill the demon, that Keshi demon in my heart. And that demon is in the form of doubt. So kindly clarify that doubt. So Krishna answers that what is sannyas? Sannyas, he says, is the renounced order of life, giving up our kamya karmas. So you must have seen that there are sannyasis. They don't follow all the kamya karmas that are gross materialistic or other, people they carry on. And they are kamya karmas are basically the activities which are based on some material desires. But sannyasis, those who are renounced order of life, they have given up all their material, so-called material desires. And that's why they have come on to the level of sannyas. Whereas tyag or renunciation is giving up the results of all activities. So we'll go further to explain that what actually Krishna is talking about. So Krishna says that there are two types of activities. One is nitya karma. Nitya karma is like daily obligatory duties which are prescribed in the scriptures, like Sandhya Vandanam. We chant 3 times Gayatri. We take bath 2-3 times. We take bath before chanting our Gayatris. and that cleanliness, the deity worship. These are all our obligatory duties which are prescribed by the scriptures. So they are our nitya karmas. But there are kamya karmas, which are activities for fulfilling our particular personal desires, like elevation to heavens, doing some pious activity, attaining those piety, and attaining a good son, so-called kamya karmas. So these are the two activities. But a person, a sannyasi, what does he does? He gives up all kind of kamya karmas because he doesn't have any desire. Therefore, he accepted the renounced order of life. But he performs his nitya karmas. He performed deity worship. He will perform his sandhya vandanams. He'll chant his gayatris. He'll maintain all kind of cleanliness. So he performs nitya karmas, but he gives up all kind of kamya karmas. But in Tyag, what happens? That one performs all kamya karmas also, all nitya karmas also, but without seeking results. So that is the difference that Krishna says is the difference between renounced order of life, that is sannyas, and renunciation, that is tyag. Then Krishna describes that at any point of time, it is not possible to give up the acts of sacrifice or charity or austerity. These acts are not supposed to be given up. Everybody performs some kind of charity. Everybody performs some kind of, sacrifice, some austerity. So they must be performed. And they are performed by everybody, even by the great souls. But they are to be performed in a particular mood. And that mood is that whosoever performs any act of sacrifice, charity, or austerity, it has to be performed with a mood of detachment. It has to be performed with the mood of non-doership mentality, that I am not the doer. That kind of mood should be there. It should be done without expectations of results, that, okay, I'm performing this sacrifice and because I want so and so results. It has to be done without expectations of results. And third, it has to be done with a matter of duty. So this way, Krishna explained the difference between what is sannyas and what is tyag. But then in tyag, Krishna says that actually renunciation, tyag, is in three modes. And it is in mode of ignorance, it is in mode of passion, and it is mode of goodness. So how come we understand that tyag is in the mode of ignorance? So tyag becomes in the mode of ignorance when one gives up its prescribed obligatory duties due to illusion or some lack of spiritual knowledge. When somebody gives up its obligatory duty, like cleanliness, chanting, gayatris. So when one gives up all these duties, saying that, oh, it's just an illusion, why I have to take shower 3 times, why I have to maintain cleanliness, why I have to do deity worship, then it is totally in the mode of ignorance. In mode of passion, one gives up one prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily comforts. Then it will never lead to elevation. So one gives up one prescribed duties because they are fearful that unnecessary there will be some bodily discomfort. So therefore, I don't want to follow that. But in tyag, in goodness, is when we perform prescribed duties only because it is ought to be done as a matter of duty and without achieving any material results or association, without desire for results, and without the censor of doership, then that tyag, that renunciation is under the category of mode of goodness. Now, if one is not renounced, if one is not practicing any kind of renunciation, then Krishna says that it leads to 3 kinds of results after death. And what is that? Ishtam. Ishtam means to desire. And what is desire? Heavenly planets. Anishtam is undesirable, that is hellish planets. And finally, Mishram, that is mixed, and one gets a human birth. So some type of, at some point, some type of Renunciation is very, very important. One has to follow. But then Krishna says, this is all that I have told you, the renunciation, tyag in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. But a true renunciant who is beyond the three modes is one who renounces the results of action. Karma phala tyagi. He doesn't bother about the results of action. Because giving up results, giving up all actions for an embodied soul's embodied living entity is impossible, because one has to do some karma, right? But when one gives up the results of all his activities, karma phala tyagi is actually a true renunciant. So one who is true renunciant has no such results to offer, to suffer or enjoy, because he's beyond the three modes. So he is not worried about attaining any heavenly planets or hellish planets or coming back to the cycle of birth and death, right? So he is beyond all that. But we also heard in the previous chapters that every action has some action, some reaction. So how come a true renunciant who is karma phala tyagi, who is giving up the results of his actions, how come he is free from bondage? Because he is free from bondage, because he has full conviction that he is not the doer and the Supreme Lord is the main doer. He is just the nimit matram. He is just the instrument in carrying out a particular activity. And that person has the complete knowledge that he is not the doer, Supreme Lord is the doer, and not only Supreme Lord, but there are other 5 factors that determine the cause of actions. He is in that complete knowledge. So when one is in the complete knowledge that I am not the doer, Supreme Lord is the doer, and there are other 4 factors that determine my course of action, then that person is not entitled to any bondage and is free from all bondages, right? So then Krishna explains that what are the 5 factors of action. So first he says is an adhishtanam. Adhishtanam means a place of action, that is our body. Like in the 13th chapter also we read, right? What is kshetra? Kshetra is the field of that activity. And what is the field of activity? Is our own body. That is the field of our activity. So he says that there are 5 factors of action, and one of the 5 factors is this body. Next is karta. Karta is the doer of action, or the consciousness which is reflected in the false ego. Why I'm saying the consciousness which is reflected in the false ego? Because this is misidentifying ourselves with some kind of false designations we carry. Like I'm being a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter-in-law, and so on and so forth. I'm a wife. So I do carry those. I connect myself to those misidentifications. I don't carry the real constitutional position of mine that I am the servant of the Supreme Lord. So this way, the karta is also one of the factor of action, who is the doer of action. Third is karanam, that is the instrument of action. That means our various senses, our jnana indriyas, our karma indriyas, all these are the instruments in performing an action. So they are karanam, they are the causes, right? And fourth is cheshta, that is the effort which is exerted by the life heirs. We know that there are 5 life heirs, right? And all those five life heirs actually helps in maintaining this entire body. So the effort that is being exerted by those life heirs by performing various functions are actually one of the factors of performing that action. And the last is Daivam, that is the super soul, the Paramatma, the Supreme Lord, who is there in the heart of everybody and who puts everything in motion, because he is the sanctioner, right? We read in the previous chapter that how he is Upadrishta and he is Hanumanta. He is the seer of everything. He sees everything. And at the same time, he gives his approval. He gives his sanction, right? So without his sanction, no action can be carried out. So a person who is in the right knowledge that I am not the doer is the real renunciant. He is the real person, because he knows he is beyond the bondage of karma, because he knows that whatever activity I'm doing follows these 5 factors. It's because of these 5 factors that I'm able to perform any activity. Now, if one think himself to be the doer, Krishna says, if someone think that, no, I am the doer, not considering these 5 factors, then Krishna says, well, that person is a durmati. He is certainly foolish. Dur means bad, mati means intelligence, who is poor fund of knowledge, poor fund of intelligence, who doesn't have that intelligence. That person is durmati. He is certainly foolish. But one who is cognizant that all these 5 factors and the Supreme Lord as the supreme sanctioner is there and is the part of all these 5 are the 5 factors because of which this action can be performed, that person is never in illusion and he is perfect in doing everything. Now, I might sound a little confusing, but I'll give you the example. Prabhupada gives an example. Just like a soldier, there is a soldier and he kills somebody. But when he kills under the command of a superior officer, then is he subjected to be judged or punished? No, because whatever he did was under the command of a superior officer. So he is not subjected to any kind of punishment. Rather, he is given medals after medals. He is rewarded with the medals. Whereas if the same soldier, if he kills on his personal account, if he kills somebody on the street just because he was hurt, then definitely he will be certainly judged by the court of law and he will be punished. So this is the example that we try to understand, that when we understand that I am not the doer, rather there are 5 factors that determine my action, then whatever activity we'll perform will be under the right knowledge. And then we will definitely not be subjected by the court of laws of karma. Then we will be beyond that. So this is what Krishna explains in the first section, that was S, which is the summary of Jnana Yoga. So here comes our life lesson, that how one should work. One should work in the spirit of detachment, that one should not be attached to the results of one's activity. Whenever Krishna was there with Arjun in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, time and again, Krishna reminded Arjuna that whatever is there in your hand is to fight, but the result is not in your hand. So one should work in the spirit of detachment, offering the fruits of labor towards the Supreme Lord. And in that way, when one functions in this world and simultaneously remain completely aloof, so then the person is said to be in the world, but not of this world. And here you can see a beautiful picture of a dry coconut. So when the dry coconut is there, the coconut is still inside the shell. The coconut is still inside the shell, but it loosens itself. The walls, the coconut leaves the walls of the shell. Though it is still in the shell, but it leaves the wall of the shell. It is not attached to this shell. And you can, if you shake that coconut, then you can hear that sound, tuck, 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 that, and that inside the coconut has left the shell, the walls of the shell. So coconut is inside the shell, but not of the shell. So similarly, our activities should also be in the same spirit, We should not consider ourselves to be the doer of anything, and whatever labor or whatever activity we perform, we should dedicate it to the Supreme Lord. And in that way, we will be working in this material world, but we'll be completely aloof of this material world. Another example that, there is a gross materialistic person who is working 9-to-5 job, but there is a devotee who is also working 9-to-5 job. So both are doing the same activity, but what matters is the consciousness. A gross materialistic, when he's working 9-to-5 job, at the end of the month, he's waiting for his paycheck so that he can use that money in the sense gratification. Whereas a devotee, when he is working 9-to-5 job, he might also be waiting for the paycheck, but not for his sense gratification, but to use the money in a right Krishna conscious way. So that way, both are doing the same activity, but the result is different. One is subjected by the laws of karma. The devotee is not subjected by the laws of karma. Though that devotee is in this world, but doesn't belong to this world, because he is working with a mood of detachment. He's not attached to the paycheck. He might be waiting, but he's not attached to that salary. He's simply using that salary in the service of the Supreme Lord. Now that takes us to the next section, that is M, which is modes of nature. So in the last section, we saw that there were 5 causes of any action to happen. Now in this section also, we will see that how the modes of nature influence our actions. So modes of nature, nobody is beyond these modes of, we all are subjected to the modes of nature. So all our activity will also be based on these modes of nature. So Krishna explains that actually there are 3 motivators of action. So what are those 3 motivators? The first is jnanam. Jnana means knowledge. Next is jnanam, that is object of knowledge. And third is parignata, that is knower. Yes, these are the 3 motivators of action. So when a knower, when he is in the complete knowledge, and he knows the object of knowledge, then when he performs the action, will lead to a particular kind of activity. So these are the 3 motivators. I'll give you an example. So there is one person, suppose a knower. A knower is a cook, right? So he knows the knowledge. He knows the object of knowledge. He knows that what dish he is going to prepare. Right? And then he is in complete knowledge that what all ingredients I need in order to cook that dish, right? So whatever he will do will determine the entire activity is motivated by these 3 things. So there should be a knower who is a cook in this case, and he should have the knowledge. He should have, first of all, he should have the object of knowledge. Okay, this is the dish that I'm going to prepare. Then he should have the complete knowledge that what all the ingredients I need and what is the recipe I'm going to follow. Then Krishna says that there are 3 constituents of action. So here we can see one Mataji baking some cookies, some bread. So 3 constituents of action. What are they? First is karma itself. Our work itself is one of the constituent of our action. Next is karanam, the instruments of work or the senses that are involved. And third is the karta, who is the worker or the doer. So these are the 3 constituents of action. So 3 motivators of action and 3 constituents of action. Don't get confused. It will be elaborated nicely in the future slides. So these are the 3 motivators and these are the 3 constituents. So any activity is motivated by a person. There should be a person, there should be a knower, only then the activity can be performed. And that knower should be perceiving some desirable goal or some object should be there. Now with such inspiration, the doer, the person itself, he carries out certain work, some karma. Or how does how does he carries out that activity? Definitely with the help of senses, which are karanam, because only through our senses we will be able to carry out certain work. So all these motivators, Krishna says, the motivators and the constituents of actions, they are all determined, they are all influenced under the modes of material nature. So now Krishna will describe the effect of these three modes on, especially on jnanam, that is knowledge, on work, that is karma, and the worker, that is karta. So all these six are not bereft of these three modes. They all fall under the category of three modes of material nature. That means there should be a knowledge in the mode of goodness, mode of passion and ignorance. Then a karma, the work is also under the mode of passion, ignorance and goodness. And karta, who is the worker, is also under the modes of passion, ignorance and goodness. So that we will see that knowledge, first of all, he'll tell, Krishna is explaining about knowledge, jnana, that is in three modes. So when a person has a knowledge in goodness, what is knowledge in goodness? When a person sees undivided spirit soul in all living beings, though a person understands the body may be different, the body may be that of a human being, of an animal, of an aquatic, of a bird, of a beast, of a plant, a body may be different, but there is undivided spirit soul in each and every body. Then that gyan, that knowledge, is said to be in the mode of goodness. So he sees that spirit soul in everybody, no matter which body it is, but he sees the presence of spiritual soul. And he knows that this spirit soul is beyond this body. Body is different, spirit soul is different. So that person has the knowledge in mode of goodness. Now, those who are in passion, what knowledge they have? That they see that there is a different type of living body in different types of body. So they see that, okay, a human being has a different spiritual soul, an aquatic will have a bird will have a different spiritual soul. So they understand that there is a different living entity in the heart of different type of body. And they have the understanding that when body is destroyed, the spirit soul is also destroyed. They have that kind of understanding. That is more knowledge in passion. Now, knowledge in ignorance is simply when one is attached to a one kind of work all in all without knowing the truth. They have no conception of spirit soul at all. They consider that this body is all in all. We have to just satisfy this body. And they are in animalistic consciousness because they are concerned with keeping the body comfortable. That is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Those who have this kind of consciousness are said to be having the knowledge in mode of ignorance. So this is what Krishna explains. And then Krishna explains that there is work, that is karma, which is also in three modes. So those who work in goodness, they are very regulative, nityam, they are very, very regulative. Niyatam, sorry. They have their own niyam, like we know that yam, niyam, prasana, right? The yoga practices. So they have the niyam, they have their regulative principles. They are very, very regulated in their work. And whatever work they do is they're done with attachment. Sorry, it should be detachment. I'm sorry. It should be detachment. Yeah. And then without like or dislike, without rag or dvesha, and with no desire for fruitive results. That is aphala prepsuna. So that is the karma in mode of goodness. Now, karma in passion is that those who work in mode of passion, they are doing the work with great labor. They are seeking to gratify one's desire. And the work is done with the misidentification, that is done with ahankar, with false ego, that I am the doer. The karma in mode of ignorance, it leads to bondage, especially by the Yamadutas. They come and they are in that Yamapash because They are bound by Yamadutas. Then karma in mode of ignorance is destructive. It is harmful to self and as well as to others. They are himsa. Without considering consequences, they are anapeksha because they don't know what will be the consequence. They just want to work. And they disregard the scriptures and they are always in illusion, in moha. So these are, Krishna says, he explains in 3 verses that who are the persons who are carrying out the work in goodness, what is the work in passion, and what is the work in ignorance. Then Krishna explains about the worker, the karta. They are also in 3 modes. Those who are in mode of goodness, they are detached. Those who are in the mode of goodness, they are devoid of false ego. They are determined. They are enthusiastic, utsaha, and they are unwavering in success or failure. I'm sorry. They are unwavering in success or failure. They are equipoised, whether success comes or failure comes. Then those who are in mode of passion, they are attached to work. The rag, attachment is there because they are attached to a particular kind of work. They desire for enjoying results. They are greedy, they are impure, and they are subject to joy and sorrow. Those who are in the mode of ignorance, they are materialistic and whimsical. Whatever activity they do, they carry out on their own whims without touching upon that whether it is prescribed in the scriptures or not. What they want to take up activity, and that too as per their own whims. They are stabdha, they are very obstinate, they are very stubborn. They are cheating, they have the cheating propensity. They are expert in insulting others. They are lazy, they are morose, and they are procrastinating. Procrastinating means they just want to carry the work later. They have that tendency, oh, why I have to do today? I'll do it 2 days later, 3 days later. They want to carry forward out their work, their activity, right? So this way Krishna explains that there are workers in 3 modes also. And then Krishna says that yes, after describing the knowledge, work, and worker in the modes, now Krishna says that even the intelligence, the buddhi that one has, because buddhi plays an important role in performing any kind of activity, even that buddhi, that intelligence, that understanding is also in the 3 modes. And when one is very determined, because those who are in mode of passion sometimes also are so obstinate that they are also determined in performing the activity. So determination is also in the 3 modes. And what to talk about determination, the happiness that one gets after performing the activity is also in 3 modes, in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And that Krishna will explain now. So first he's explaining the intelligence, the buddhi by which one carries out karma or work is in 3 modes. So what is buddhi in goodness? One knows what it is. They have the clear, discrimination. They have the clear discrimination. What they know, what is to be done and what is not to be done. To be feared and not to be feared. Whether that work is binding or whether that work is liberating. They are in full cognizant of all these things. Those who have the intelligence in passion, they cannot distinguish what is religion and irreligion, what action to be done and what action to be avoided. They are not cognizant of all this. And those who have intelligence in ignorance, they consider irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion. That's how their consciousness, their intelligence, or their understanding is. They take everything in the opposite direction of the truth. Why this? How this? That kind of question. And they consider great soul to be the common man and the common man to be the great soul. It's all reverse because their understanding is totally deluded because it is working under the mode of tamas, in the mode of ignorance. Then Krishna says that there is a determination also in 3 modes. And when one is determined in goodness, then it is unbreakable, unshakable, no matter what may come in. If I have taken up this vow, let me do it. They are very determined in the positive side, not in the negative side. They are in the positive side. They are very determined. Though they pray to the Supreme Lord to help me to keep up with my vows, but they are inside also very determined. And that determination comes from the sustained by yoga practice, because they are able to control the activities of mind, life, and senses. Because they are not Godas, but they are Goswami. They have full control over their senses. That is the determination in mode of goodness. And those who are in mode of passion, they always falakankshi, means they always desire the results of their activity. And results of in three purusharthas. They have not mentioned about the moksha, but dharma, artha, and kama. Whatever they do, they seek results in religion, in economic development, in sense gratification, and of course in the association. They always seek results from others. Those whose determination is in mode of ignorance, they cannot go beyond dreaming. They're always in swapnam. They are very fearful, bhayam. They are always lamenting, shokam. They're always in moroseness, vishadam. And they're always in illusion, that is manan. So here, Prabhupada also explains that this dreaming, we should understand, swapnam. Now, this dreaming can happen even in goodness and passion also, because people sleep, right? Those who are in mode of goodness will also sleep. Those who are in mode of passion will also sleep. So dreams may come, right? But here, why in mode of good ignorance only this dreaming is mentioned? Because here dreaming means excessive sleep, excess of sleep. And that is what? Or daydreaming, when the person just thinks, okay, daydream, that kind of mentality. So this is what Krishna explains, that there is a determination also in three modes. But when the activity is carried out with intelligence, with determination, with the help of senses, when karta performs a karma, then what comes is happiness. Right? And happiness also, Krishna explains, that is also in three modes. So sukham, happiness. What is sukham in goodness? It brings joy and it destroys the sorrow by practice. Abhyasena tu kaunteya, right? Krishna explains. It brings joy and it destroys the sorrow. It looks like a poison in the beginning, but it becomes the nectar at the end. And it arises from the purity of intellect, awakens one to self-realization. Here the example is that if a child is told that you should study in order to get good grades so that you can get good college, you can get admission in a good college. So it looks like a poison in the beginning, because the child has to work really hard, put his heart and soul in those studies so that he can get good grades, he can maintain good GPA so that he can get good admission in a good college. Right? It looks like a poison in the beginning, but it becomes nectar at the end when the child gets success and gets the admission in the desired college. So he could achieve that result. So that is mode of goodness. That sukha, that happiness that comes, is in the mode of goodness. But what happened in passion? So it arises from the contact of senses with the sense object. It appears like nectar in the beginning, but it becomes poison at the end. When the child says, okay, let me play video games. I'm not worried about my exams. Let me play the video games right now. It looks like a nectar. Wow, I'm getting all the time to play the games. But then what happened? The results grade goes down. And finally, it becomes a poison at the end. And all this arises because there is a contact of senses with the sense object. When we see the child see the PlayStation, see his peers playing, and he gets that desire that I also want to play. And he wants to get himself so much addicted that he wants to play even by keeping his studies at stake. So it appears very, very nectarian in the beginning. But then what happened when the grades go down? It's extremely poison. It becomes poison at the end. That is in mode of passion. When happiness comes in the mode of ignorance, it's blind to self-realization. Forget about self-realization. No, there is no self-realization as such. Why? Because it is delusion right from the beginning to the end. It is not happiness starting or poison later, or poison starting and happiness later, nectar later. No, it does. It's all delusion right from the beginning to the end. And it arises from sleep, from laziness, and from illusion or intoxication. A person who drinks, he is always deluded. From one peg to the last peg, he just wants to drink, and he is totally intoxicated. He loses his intelligence, he loses his determination, and finally he is always in illusion. So he is always deluded from beginning to end. That person, the happiness that arises for them is always in the mode of ignorance. So this is what Krishna explains. So in summary, Krishna says that actually no living being existing on this earth is freed from these three modes of nature. Whatever activity we carry, with whatever intelligence, with whatever determination, with the help of senses, the karanam, when a karma, a doer, performs an activity, a work, a karma, then that everything is influenced, is engulfed, or is in the clutches of modes of nature. It may fall under the category of ignorance, passion, and goodness. Now, it's not that always we are in the mode, a person who is in the mode of goodness will always be in the mode of goodness, or a person who is in the mode of passion will always be in the mode of. Predominantly, we can say that person is in the mode of ignorance, passion, or ignorance or goodness. But the modes keep changing. So the person's activity also keeps changing. Or you can say the reaction or respond towards that activity also changes. So all these three, everything falls under this category of three modes. And that is how the modes of nature bind us and engulf us and entangle us in this material existence. So there Krishna ends the second section, that is mode of nature. And here comes the life lesson, that one should search for long-lasting happiness by transcending the three modes of nature, because mode of goodness also brings entanglement. So we know when we did the chapter modes of nature, then at that time, it was explained that even the mode of goodness brings entanglement. So we have to rise above and we have to transcend these three modes of nature in order to situate ourselves spiritually in perfect self-realization. And that is possible when we have bhakti, we have devotee association, we read Srila Prabhupada books, we eat prasadam, and we chant. Then when Maya comes and gives us the gift, the person says, no, thanks. I don't want any gift from Maya because I'm very happy in my processes of bhakti, because that person achieves the everlasting, long-lasting happiness. Okay. Next is the ideal worker, which will be the last section that we will cover. Because remember, the acronym was SMILE, S-M-I-L-E. So we'll cover till S-M-I, and L-E we will cover in next Tuesday. So what is ideal worker? So actually, the living body, the living being, actually, he becomes successful by worshiping the Supreme Lord, by performing a prescribed duty to actually that is ascertained to one's nature, right? So this I, that is ideal worker, because on one hand we say that we are expected to be aloof, we are expected to be aloof and unattached, right? But in reality, we all are conditioned soul, and we all are influenced by the modes. So Krishna explains that the system of varnashram is there, where one engages the inherent nature of different types of work. So we have different kind of nature. Each and every one of us have a different type of nature. So as per our nature, there is a varnashrama which is being set up. And if we work accordingly to our nature, our prescribed duty, then Krishna says that you are not entangled. So 4 divisions are outlined that are, we know the 4 varnas, that is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Right? So these are the 4 varnas. So Brahmanas are basically the intelligent class. Kshatriyas are the martial class or the administrative class. Vaishyas are the mercantile class or a business class. And Shudras are the labor class. Right? So this is how the 4 varnas are mentioned. But Krishna says that it has to be determined through our inherent nature. It's not that a Brahmana son will always be a Brahmana or a Kshatriya son will always be a Kshatriya. No, Krishna says that doesn't work, right? It has to be through one's own inherent nature. Even a Shudra son can develop the quality of a Brahmana and can carry out the Brahminical order of life. Right, the Brahminical duties. So it all depends upon our inherent nature. And then Krishna explains that there are qualities. So he explains that what a quality should be there of a Brahmana, what qualities should be there of a Kshatriya, of a Vaishya, and of a Shudra. Because it's qualities that determine that which Varna one belongs to. It's not that a Brahmana son will always be a Brahmana. He may be a son of Brahmana, but inherent nature may be that of a leadership, maybe that of a Vaishya, maybe that of a Shudra. So Brahmana's sons is not necessary be a Brahmana always. So then Krishna explains the qualities of a Brahmana. Samodamastava shaucham shantir arjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. Sama, that is peacefulness, forgiveness. Damas, that is self-control. Tapaha, austerity. Shaucham, that is purity, taking bath 3 times. Shantir, that is, peacefulness, you can say, or, the tolerance. Arjavam, honesty. Evacha, then jnanam and vijnanam, wisdom, knowledge. Astikyam, that is religiousness. These are all the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So any person who claims himself to be Brahmana should have all these qualities in order to carry out the Brahminical order of life. Then Krishna explains the qualities of a Kshatriya. Shauryam tejo dhritardakshyam yuddhe chapi apalayanam dhanam ishvara bhavascha shatram karma swabhavajam. What Krishna says, Shauryam, that person should have a heroism, Teja, with power. Dhritar, determination. Daksham, that is resource, he should be very resourceful. Yuddhe chapi apalayam means he should never show his back whenever he is provoked for a battle or for a fight. He should never show his back. He should always be courageous in battle. Dhanam, he should be very generous. Ishvara bhava, he should have that mentality of control or to manage or control or leadership. When such qualities are there, then Shatra karma swabhavajam, then you can say that one can have the qualities to work for the Kshatriyas, qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Then a person can really work for the Kshatriya. Otherwise, one should really look for one's inherent nature. Then in 3rd, he tells about the qualities of Vaishya and Shudra. Krishi rogo raksha vanijyam Vaishya karma swabhavajam. So Krishi, that is farming. Go, that is go raksha means the cow protection. And vanijyam means the normal business affairs. These are the Vaishya karma swabhavajam, are the natural qualities by which the Vaishyas work. And paricharyatmakam karma shudrapi swabhavajam. And the Shudras, they are the labor class, and they have the tendency to serve all the other 3 classes. That is Brahmanas, the Vaishyas, and the Kshatriyas. So when one develops all these qualities, these are the qualities that Krishna says, that when one has one inherent intrinsic nature, then accordingly one should work. So Brahmanas, Krishna says, are predominantly in the mode of sattva, in the mode of goodness. Whereas Kshatriyas, they are predominantly in raja, in passion. But their secondary may be, the secondary mode may be sattva, maybe goodness. There are Rajarishis, right? So they are predominantly, but they are in Rajoguna because they have that administrative class. They need to be Ishwara, they need to be controller. The leadership should be there, and that can arise only from the mode of passion. And Vaishyas are predominantly in Rajoguna, but Tamas may be, they're secondary. Whereas Shudras are predominantly in Tamoguna, where Rajas can be their secondary mode. So in all, he says that what depends is not the birth, but one's intrinsic qualities that one has. So because now one can ask that because the duties of the Kshatriyas, they are, and others, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas and Shudras, they are all composed of lower modes. So one should always perform the duties of a Brahmanas, because Brahmanas are always in mode of goodness, in Sattva Guna. So one should do that. Then Krishna says, no, one should not do that. Now one may ask that if we cannot, now one may ask that we should do our prescribed duties, because Krishna says, no, you cannot do that, because if you are a Brahmana, if you have the nature of a Brahmana, then work as a Brahmana. No matter you are born out of Shudra, but if you have that nature of a Brahmana, then carry out the Brahminical order of life. But if you are son of a Vaishya and you have that mentality of a Kshatriya, then go ahead, have that leadership quality and then go ahead. But otherwise, if your nature doesn't allow, then do your prescribed duty. Do your prescribed duty, whether you have of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Now one may ask that, that we should do our prescribed duties. Then what about training? Yes, if we are trained in the Brahminical culture, then our swabhav can also be changed. If under the guidance of a pure devotee, if we cultivate that mode of goodness and we adopt a Brahminical culture, we follow that samadhama tapa shaucham, then yes, we can go ahead and do the Brahminical order of life. Otherwise, whatever our nature is, we should do our prescribed duties according to that nature. Prabhupada did it. Prabhupada, he made all the hippies and Shudras, they were Shudras, but he made them into Brahmanas. He trained them properly into a Brahmana. So a Brahmana may be born out of Shudra, right? So it all depends the qualities that one possesses. If one is trained into Brahmana, means that one has to adopt all the qualities of a Brahmana, right? But for other practical purposes, one should always do one's prescribed duties strictly. Now, even though there may be some fault with their work, still the work should not be given up. That's what Krishna says. Because everyone can become perfect by performing his particular duties, by worshipping the Supreme Lord. Krishna says it is better to do one's own duties, even imperfectly, than to do others' duties perfectly. Yes, better to do your own duties. Right? Shreyan swadharma vignu paradharmat swanashtitat. That you should do your own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, rather to accept others' occupation and perform it perfectly. This is very important verse. This is the same verse that is repeated twice in Bhagavad Gita. First, it was repeated in the 3rd chapter, 35th verse. Shreyan swadharma vignu paradharma swanashtitat. That's what Krishna says. And again in the 18th chapter, he is emphasizing and repeating the verse. So this is not the fault of redundancy that Krishna was some short of Sanskrit verses, that he repeated the verse. No. It's because Krishna wants to emphasize that how much important it is that one should perform one's own duty perfect, even though if one is performing imperfectly, but better to perform your own duty imperfectly rather than doing somebody else's duty perfectly. Arjuna was also saying same thing in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, that, oh Krishna, I don't want to fight. Now, Arjun was a warrior. He was a Kshatriya. He has all the qualities of a Kshatriya, right? So his duty was to fight, was to perform that leadership, that administrative quality. But he said, oh, I don't want to fight. Better for me that I'll go and beg. Krishna says, forget it, Krishna, forget it, Arjun. You cannot do that, because once you go to that forest, again, you will interact with other species of life, and there also you will fight for your living, because that's your intrinsic nature. So don't act as a Brahmana. Don't think that you can be a best Brahmana and go in the forest and pick up the begging bowl and beg. No, you cannot do that, because your nature is not that, right? So therefore, Krishna says it's better to perform one's own duty imperfectly than to do another's duties perfectly. This is the verse that is repeated twice in Bhagavad Gita. There is another verse that is repeated twice, and that will also come in the 18th chapter, but that verse we'll see later. So a Kshatriya, however pious, because see, there are some faults, right? Because Krishna says, even though if there is fault, one should perform one's own duty. What fault? Because sometimes Kshatriyas, however, they may be a Raja Rishi, they may be very, very pious, but they have to fight with the enemies, right? They have to kill somebody. So, and even the merchant, sometimes he also have to hide his profit and stay in business. A Shudra may sometimes have to serve a bad master. But despite of all these flaws, Krishna says, please carry out your prescribed duties as born out from your own nature. Own nature, not as your own birth, but as your own nature, carry out your duty. Then Krishna gives an example that just like a fire is always covered by smoke, right? But then what happened? You can remove the smoke and then the fire is again useful. For what fire is used for? Fire is used for heat and light. The moment the smoke is removed, the fire is again usable, is useful. Similarly, how much ever faulty our work may be, just remove that faulty portion of our work, and that good portion can again be used and again be useful for our own purification if we work under that prescribed nature. So duties prescribed to one's own nature are not affected by sinful reactions. That's what this verse says. The duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. Right? Why? Because they are done to satisfy the Supreme Lord. Now, Arjun was a Kshatriya. He was told to fight. Right? It's right in one sense that yes, he was a Kshatriya. He was told to fight. But what Arjuna did was not a duty out of his nature, but what he did was a devotional service, because he fought for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So ultimately, we all need to cultivate that attitude so that we can dovetail our work to Krishna and please him. All these Varnashrama systems that Krishna is talking about, they are actually for one to bring us to God consciousness so that we can elevate ourselves to God consciousness. Some said, "Dir Haritoshanam." That should be the mood. It's not that we should get stuck into all these 4 Varnashrama, right? But to elevate us, and so that we can rise above all this. So for one who performs his activity only in the realm of Varnashrama is actually on the material plane, and it is always under the modes of material nature. But bhakti is something which is we have to do it, and which is above all these 3 modes. I'll give you an example. In temple, what happened? No matter what our nature is, we perform everything, right? In temple, as a Shudra, we even wash dishes, we clean toilets, which is an act of a Shudra. And the same person may be chanting his Gayatri, doing deity dressing, and doing arati, doing cooking for the lordships, which only a brahmanas are allowed to do, maybe giving a class on a Vyasasana. And the same person may also be managing some temple affairs, right? And, which is always an act of a Kshatriya, managing and leading some task and all. So no varna and no ashrama actually will help. What will help is bhakti. Everything is done to please the Supreme Lord. Everything has to be done to the pleasing of Supreme Lord. So now, after explaining this entire thing, Krishna makes a transition. And the next section, he explains that how the reaction-free work helps one to rise from the Brahman platform to pure bhakti. So he says, initially it is recommended to do one's prescribed duties, but do it with detachment and with the right knowledge. And when one gets this knowledge that whatever I'm doing, first of all, I'm not the doer. These are the course of actions. These are the causes of my actions. I'm not the only doer. And when one gets fixed in the right knowledge and performs activity in that right knowledge, then he becomes mature in the process. He gets that maturity. And after getting that maturity, even that person doesn't perform his prescribed duty, he is not bound to get any kind of laws of karma, because he comes in the right understanding that who am I, who is Krishna, what is my relationship with him. So whatever activity then that person performs will fall under that relationship. And that will lead one to the process of Bhakti Yoga. So that's Krishna will take us in. This is the transition that Krishna explains in the next section, that how one comes to the level of Brahmabhuta stage, the process of attaining Brahman. And he says that there are 12 factors, the 12 things that determine how one can come to the Brahmabhuta stage. I'll just quickly go through that. You have to be purified by sattvic intelligence, controlling the mind with determination, giving up all sense objects like sound, ether, being freed from attachment and repulsion, living in a secluded place, eating little, controlling one's speech, body, and mind, absorption in meditating on the Lord, taking shelter of detachment, free from false ego, false pride, false anger, false lust, anger, and material possessions, free from false proprietorship that I am the doer, then be peaceful like an ocean without waves. And such a person can attain Brahman, that is self-realization. Brahma Bhuya Kalpate. Then one attains Brahman, the Brahma Bhuta stage. One attains. But then Krishna says that, okay, he doesn't stop that, okay, this is not the goal of life, that you have attained Brahman, you have attained self-realization. Move forward. After attaining Brahman, after attaining self-realization, what next? Then you understand that you have a relationship with the Supreme Lord. That Supreme Lord is not just the Brahman, but is a person, is a personality. You develop that relationship. Then it comes to bhakti. And he says, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kangshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. So he says that Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, he comes to the realizes of that Supreme Brahman, that he is a personality. You can develop a relationship with that person, and that person becomes prasannatma. He becomes very, very joyful. Na sochati na kangshati. He never laments whatever has happened in the past, and neither kangshati, neither he desires that what's going to happen in the future, because he's equipoised in everything, in all happiness and distress. And sama sarveshu bhuteshu, and he's dispoised, equally dispoised towards every living entity. Mad bhaktim labhate param. When person transitions from Brahma Bhuta stage to bhakti, that person attains my pure devotional service. There also Krishna doesn't end. Okay, you have attained the pure devotional service. What next? Then Krishna says, you attain me. After performing devotional service, you attain me. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yachashmi tatvata tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tad antaratman. He says, one who understands me as a supreme person, as a personality, then performing devotional service. He performs devotional service. And when one is in full conscious of me, that whatever activity he is doing, he is dovetailing that entire activity towards me, then that person is entitled to come to my abode, to enter into the kingdom of the Supreme Lord. Then that person attains Krishna. So this is the transition that Krishna was talking about, that you come from that Brahmabhuta stage to devotional service, to bhakti, and while performing bhakti, how you attain me, how you attain the Supreme Lord. Right? And then now in the future verses, Krishna will explain that when one is in this pure bhakti, how one should act, what activities one should do when one attains this pure bhakti. And that we will do in our next class, next Tuesday. And we will cover the two sections, that is L and E, which is love of Godhead, and E is end of conclusion. So to summarize again, first of all, we'll see the life lesson. Yes, life lesson is that Krishna cannot be understood by any scholarship or speculation. He is known only by performing bhakti under the guidance of a pure bhakta. It is very, very important that one should perform bhakti under the guidance of pure bhakta. Only then Krishna says that you can attain me, my spiritual nature. So this is the summary, what we did. Chapter 18, that it was entitled, the acronym was SMILE. We covered only 3, that is SMI, where we studied the summary of Karma Yoga, who is responsible for act. First is Arjuna's doubt about sannyas and tyaga. Then Krishna says that final decision he gives, that who is the true renunciant. And then he gives who is responsible for action: body, performer, senses, endeavor, and super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. And then Krishna talks about M, that is modes of nature. What are the effect of modes and what was the conclusion? So what is the effect of modes? Or we saw the effect of modes on knowledge, jnana, intelligence, that is buddhi, action, that is karma, determination, that is dhriti, happiness, that is sukham. And then ideal worker, I stands for ideal worker, where we saw the social orders and duties. Then what should be the perfection through our work? We should just not focus on varnashrama, rather we should do it for Krishna, some siddhir haritoshanam, whatever activity should do, we should please it, do it for the pleasure of Krishna, and then we can attain the supreme, and that is what is bhakti yoga. So this was the summary of the entire, the 3/4 of the chapter, I should say, that we covered today, and 1/4, that is 2 acronym, that is L and E, that we will cover next Tuesday. So thank you all so much. Thank you for being there with us, and we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was so nice to hear the first half of this 18th chapter. So much clarity today. Really wonderful class, Mataji. So many points got clarified. Thank you so much. And anyone has any questions, you can go ahead. Hare Krishna. Yeah, we recommend that you ask questions. Yes.
Clear off all the doubts. Whatever.
That's how we started the chapter. So.
Yeah, we should clear off all our doubts, because these doubts are the demons in the heart that will lead us to nowhere. But if you all have no doubts, then that means that Bhagavad Gita is quite clear to all of you, which is good. Okay, so we'll give few more seconds, rather a minute, if anybody wants to raise their hand or type their questions on the chat box. Okay, unable to unmute. Okay. Mataji, can you help? People are unable to unmute themselves. Okay, okay.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for your beautiful session. When you are describing the different modes of the people, nature of that, I mean, and the type of whether good or passion or the ignorance.
Hmm.
And also I was, when you see all the characteristics, when you learn about them, I think that plays a very critical role, especially when you try to associate with a different personality, whether they fall under the mode of a goodness, a passion or something. Because when we associate with the people, I mean, the devotees who are in the mode of a passion, then whatever the characteristics you showed us, those are the things we can expect, I mean, down the road. They are not like all the time fair or something. Like the person who is in the mode of a passion, initially they looks like a very good relation and all that. But when the circumstances comes, for their benefit, they will be, I mean, they do not hesitate to do anything. I mean, at that time, that's one of the thing, I mean, what I was trying to understand the importance of learning about these modes of nature and when we associate with the others.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. So yes, I got what you are in the dilemma of. So first of all, we have to understand that even the devotees, because right now we are all not pure devotees, right? So definitely we are still acting as a conditioned soul only, because right now we are in the stage of a sadhaka. We are aspiring to become a devotee. We have not yet reached to a level where we can be categorized as a devotee or classified as a devotee. So we are all aspiring to be a devotee. So definitely because we are aspiring, we are still having some conditioning on us. And that conditioning is that sometimes we act in mode of goodness, sometimes in mode of passion, and sometimes in mode of ignorance. So we are all in that category. So now a person like the another person, like for example, I take your case, if you determine that somebody, thinking that this person was acting in the mode of goodness, and I respect this person so much, but now that circumstances has changed, the person is behaving in mode of ignorance or passion. So we have to first of all understand that person is still aspiring to be a devotee, and we should ourselves not be influenced by them. That we have to see. Now, after reading this 18th chapter, where Krishna is telling, that everything falls under the modes of nature, it is for us to introspect. It is not, we have not read this entire Bhagavad Gita or this 18th chapter to judge others that how come this person was acting in the mode of goodness, but now acting in a mode of passion. So I declare that person is not a pure devotee or not to be called even as a devotee. It is not for others, it's not for us to judge others, but it is to introspect our activity, our karma. That time and again we introspect that where I am, why at this point I am behaving in the mode of goodness, and at this time I am mode of passion. How much these modes are influencing me? Why can't I be predominantly in mode of goodness and always act in mode of goodness? So this is for our own introspection, not to judge others. Others, whatever they are behaving, let that equation be between them and Krishna. If that is influencing us, take a step back. Take a step back without giving any or passing out any judgmental conclusion on others. But for us, we have to be really strict, introspect time and again, that this situation happened. Okay, my son did this and I was very upset and I slapped him. This was totally in mode of ignorance. But next time when he did wrong, this time I have to control myself that last time I did wrong. This time I'm not going to, slap him, rather maybe chastise him, maybe be strict on him, which is again in the mode of passion. But third time when my child does something, okay, now I know that last 2 times I was in the mode of passion and ignorance, but now I know that I can fall and I can react or respond in the mode of goodness. So let me explain politely to that child, so that child doesn't repeat. So this way, I'm just giving an example that this way we can introspect our own activities, how we can behave, and always predominantly try to be in mode of goodness. If not goodness, then at least in passion, but definitely not in ignorance. So this is all for us. Bhagavad Gita is the manual for us to live our own life, not to judge others. Hope that helps, Prabhu. Hope that helps, Prabhu. Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. I think so. Preeti Vilasni Mataji, can you just check? People are not able to unmute themselves.
Yeah. 1 second.
Yeah, now I can unmute you, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji, for the explanation.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for the nice question. It was really good one. Okay, I hope others are able to unmute. Okay, Arundhati Mataji. Yes, please go ahead, Arundhati Mataji.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble pranams. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful class and explanation about the modes, Mataji. Maybe this is a simple question, but about the Sauchyam, you are saying that if you don't take a bath 3 times, you are not in mode of goodness. Mataji, when we are working, it's impossible.
Yeah, so for a practical purpose, we have to be practical. Because otherwise, yes, it is recommended that when we chant our Gayatris, the 3 times, that Sandhya Vandana that we do, we should always take shower and chant our Gayatris. But I know those who are working and, sometimes we are outside and, we cannot do that. In that case, it's okay. We can just take a palm full of water, just a spoonful of water, and we can chant a mantra. And we know that mantra, right? Pavitram pavitrova sarvavasthagatopiva yat punari kakshasmare sabhaya bhayantara shuchihi. So we just chant that mantra and sprinkle Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. We sprinkle that water, in that way, we are just praying to Pundari Kaksha, the lotus-eyed Krishna, that, please, I know whatever stage I am, whether pavitra or apavitra, whether in a pure state or impure state, please, I'm taking this water on my palm and sprinkling on my head by reciting your name, so that you cleanse me from inside, sabhaya abhayantara shuchihi, so that I may be cleansed from internally and externally. So that way, you take that you chant that mantra, and then you can sprinkle, and then you can chant your Gayatris. So this is how it is recommended, because time, place, and circumstances, we should try to understand. Sometimes at work, sometimes we are in transit, sometimes we are traveling, we cannot take shower. At that time, this is the right way where we can then chant our Gayatris.
Beautiful, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. I hope people are able to unmute themselves now. If not, then you can still raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Okay. I'm assuming there are no further questions, so we can stop here. Indulekha Mataji or Preeti Vilasni Mataji, you want to take over?
Yeah, Mataji, Shri can unmute.
Who?
No, Mataji, I'm good, Mataji. Thank you for this. Yep.
Okay, sure. Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much, Kirtida Sundari, for such a beautiful, beautiful, very clear class. It's 18 chapters, hard to understand, but thank you for splitting it up so beautifully and covering it in nice sections so that we can all understand. We request all the devotees to join us again next week, because next week is really the conclusion. And as Mataji said in the beginning, it was very hard for us to condense everything together in one session. So we have split it into two. So we request all of you to please be present for our final session. It'll be wonderful to have all of you, and we'll probably have a quick Kahoot also if possible. So please join us. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah, we can end the call here.
Yes.
Manchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta-koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Her praise Kirtida Sundari Mataji ki jai. Hare Krishna.
The devotees ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. It was wonderful class. All
Thank
8
you, Mataji.
went by so fast. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dharma Pranam. Thank you.
Thank
Hare Krishna Mataji.